Hi, everyone. Great to have you with us for a brand new edition of the MSG 150 at Home. I'm Bill Pidto, along with Steve Valiquette. We have Monica McNutt with us tonight. And as always, Alan Hahn. Guys, great to see you. How's everybody doing? Monica, how you been?
Safe and sound. Just counting my blessings, finding things to do around the house.
And what would that entail?
There's some new cooking recipes going on. Lots of crock pot love since I got all this time to kill.
Well, maybe you can send some food up here because things have kind of ground to a halt.
You know, it's always about food with you. Monica, only send him vegan stuff.
He knows it too.
Are you kind of insinuating about my appearance right now here? Is that what you're doing, Alan?
I just know that you fall off a cliff very quickly. We know this.
And you know what? There are no Mike and Ikes in the house.
Smart. Your wife is smart. Keep them far away from you.
There's no Swedish fish in the house.
I have to get you some dried mango, Pidto.
What's that?
I have to get you some dried mango sent that way.
There you go. He's so irritable, you can tell. No candy in the house.
As always, we want to thank those on the front lines, helping those who need it the most during this pandemic. And guys, news on Friday from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. No word on when the NBA might restart, and Alan, no timetable on when they might even be able to make a decision. So obviously that's very much up in the air. But one possibility when they get going is to have the whole NBA community descend on Orlando. They got a lot of courts there, and of course, ESPN ABC's a rights holder, and at Walt Disney World there in Orlando, Alan, there is a ton of production capability for the potential broadcasting of those games.
Yeah, this was something that was proposed by a former Disney employer, somebody that spent 20 years working at Walt Disney World in Orlando, and he wrote an essay for Yahoo about this last week. It caught everybody's attention because it did make a lot of sense for the points that you were making. As you know, baseball was looking at finding an area that they could quarantine everybody in Arizona. Valley, you've mentioned North Dakota for the NHL as well. And you know, while a lot of people were assuming Vegas for the NBA, you know, you're not quite sure that that's the best spot when you think about how that town, you know, needs so much of tourism. You couldn't shut that town down for the NBA. But Walt Disney World is closed right now, and they do have tons of resort space and hotel rooms and space, plenty of space to be able to hold all of the teams, or at least teams that would maybe play in the playoffs. And as you mentioned, they also have Wild World of Sports, which is a gigantic complex that the NBA uses for their combine. So there's plenty of NBA level equipment there and a court there. Plus the Magic's arena is not far away and their practice facility as well. So, you know, on the surface, it's not something the NBA has ever talked about. It's not something that you saw, but the story itself got you thinking, like, there are ways. And Adam Silver on Friday night did talk about how they are looking at everything. In fact, his quote is, everything is on the table. But as you said, Bill, they don't have a timetable for it. But I have to note the one thing that he said, and I think you guys will raise your eyebrows to this one, is he pointed out on Friday night that there is an obligation to restart, and that it is about the financials, as always. As the Board of Governors, when they spoke, he said the revenue, in essence, has dropped to zero. And that is something that no league, not even a powerful one like the NBA, can survive.
I think it's been interesting, guys, just seeing what's going on around the world. There's one league that's playing basketball right now. It's in Taiwan. I picked up this story on the New York Times. It was pretty interesting. If there's something to be learned from the NBA, seeing what's working in Taiwan, now it's only a 5-team league. And they've got some strict protocols, but you can look at what they're doing and how it's working. Think about the proximity Taiwan is geographically to China, plus the ties in business. There's a lot of crossover there, and they've done a really good job of keeping the contamination clean. They have protocols, guys, that it's very tight and stringent with how you're dressed, how you're going to come into the court area, if you're going to be a broadcaster covering the game, 100 people max. In fact, there's people watching the games in sock feet if they forget to bring rubber-soled shoes. It's priceless, but again, some information maybe there that could be used for crossover.
So I love those quotes that you pulled out, Hahn, and they definitely do cause you to take a second, really listen, and understand the urgency of this thing. But Valley is absolutely right. When you look at Taiwan, there's something that they have beyond the basketball league that we have not yet established here at home. And that's protocol from the top down, government mandated in terms of safety being a paramount. Yes, Adam Silver is in a position to represent the owners and the players, and we would all love to see basketball return. But Silver has also said that safety is paramount, and we're still without so many data. There is no broad testing here in the States. We don't necessarily have an antiviral established. So Taiwan, yes, their stadiums are empty, but on a national level, in terms of the entire country, they're ahead of where we are. And on Friday, yes, Silver was making those comments, but the WNBA draft was actually going on as well. And I talked with Renee Montgomery, who's played in the WNBA for 11 years now. And there's some conversation of the W trying to do a bubble as well. It's a much smaller league, 12 teams, 144 players. But she said, as a player, how do you know that I have everything that I need to be at my optimal performance? She joked that she's one that doesn't cook. Is my chef allowed to come? Is family allowed to come? Like, who all is going to be in the bubble? And the bigger the bubble gets, the less quality control you would have.
Now, one point to make, guys, in Orlando, of course, you got a ton of hotels and a ton, Alan, of hotel rooms, which could help the potential proposal.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that the man who wrote the essay for Yahoo had worked for Disney for 20 years and offered it as an idea. That's what he said, is that you would be able to, teams would be able to bring in their own people, not just necessarily your training staff, but you could bring in from your practice facility. I mean, Valley, you see it at the MSG Training Center. There's chefs there. They have their people that cook for them, and you could bring them in. You could bring in hospitality, your own people, to handle making beds and whatnot. And
How many of my own people, though? Like, this is getting absorbent now. I got my people, you got your people.
That's right. But every hotel, there's so many hotels that every section of the hotel can have that. But what I was going to say is, heaven forbid a player make his own damn bed in the morning.
Oh, whatever, Hahn.
What about
Hahn, if you went down to cover it, they'd have to make exception for the entourage that you travel with, you know?
There you go.
Entourage of one, baby. That's all I need.
Are there any, Alan, are there any cities that stand out that have underground pathways to get to the building? Because they have one in Minneapolis. So
Yes,
the NHL could open in Minnesota. That's what they're talking about now. In fact, Grand Forks, North Dakota is out of the picture. They don't have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But another team, guys, for the NHL is Winnipeg could host. They have 2.2 miles worth of channels underneath the ground. You can get from hotel to hotel. You can get to the rink and never even go to street level. That's something that really seems increasingly like a possibility.
That's amazing.
Right, what's coming up next? We're going to be joined by Mike Keenan, former Rangers coach. A lot to talk about in terms of a potential restart, as Steve just touched on in the NHL. And Alan and Monica will be back after that segment. Up next, Mike Keenan, as we continue on the MSG 150 at Home right after this.